Another approach to printing begins with the idea that you might want to see a preview of the printout before actually considering some of the options. And in the lower right-hand corner of the status bar, the three buttons here, the third one on the right, PageBreak Preview. Now, this shows what will happen if we simply were to go to the File menu and choose Print. And although it's not obvious at first, as we start to scroll down here, we see, using watermarks, what will appear on page 1, below that page 2, and so on. And depending upon how many columns of data you're showing, perhaps we'll have more pages. This is page 18 to the right, page 19 below that, and so on. And so if we were to print right now this particular worksheet, I think it would appear, from most people's eyes, not an ideal kind of layout. So there are a couple of options to consider. First, a few basic ideas. You might want to not show some of these columns, and simply by hiding some of the columns, maybe the issue of the extra information to the right would simply disappear. So that's certainly one option. Another option is to say, for example, that you don't want to show columns K and L since they're essentially empty except for the top two rows. Drag the thick blue border on the right, point to it. When you see the two-way arrow, hold down the left mouse button, drag leftward. You only want to see the data through here. We're still going to have the oddity of having the last two columns on a separate page. So another option might be take the dotted line, which indicates a page break, and drag it to the right. Now, what will happen here also is that the print will appear a bit smaller, but we haven't necessarily seen the preview yet. So we can get to the preview in a couple of ways. One is simply go to the File menu and choose Print, and we will get a preview, and we'll have to scroll up and down to see how that's looking, page by page, and then we'll see at the bottom how many sheets this is going to take to print this entire list. It's going to take 15 sheets altogether. Now, you'll probably decide over time whether this is effective or not in terms of readability. Is this suitable for a handout? Is it just for you? Is it for others? And so from time to time, you need to consider whether this is too cramped or not. And so one option might be simply pressing Escape. We go back into Excel and then hide those columns, and that therefore allows the text to take up more space on the screen and be more readable. So maybe we don't want to show the initial salary column and maybe the benefits column. Maybe those aren't too important for this printout. So we'll simply right-click and hide those columns. And then as we look at our print preview, and if you have added the print preview button, we did this in a prior movie, you can simply get to the print preview that way as well and check out the display now. And the problem now might be that, well, it does fit, but on the other hand, there's a lot of white space left there. So what might we do here? And there are a couple of options. You can use some of the features that are available right here on the screen. Regarding custom margins, you may not want to choose custom margins. Try some of the built-in choices here. How about wider margins here? Try this option. Now that may or may not have changed much here, not so good possibly. You could possibly go into page setup, we cover this in the next movie, and make some adjustments there as well. But the main thrust of this particular movie is the idea that before printing, you have control over what is to be printed simply by going to PageBreak Preview and moving these solid blue lines or dotted blue lines in different ways. Another potential option here, if it were a shorter list, although you could do it here as well, is you can control these breakpoints a little bit. Now here, I don't think that would be a good idea, but possibly on some of the breakpoints, if you want them to even up where there's a change in the data, here it's actually doing it anyway, you can control these. Now I wouldn't really want to do that here, but on the other hand, from time to time, you can make those changes as well, or undo that with Control Z. So this gives you another approach to printing. Usually when you use PageBreak Preview, it doesn't encompass all the things that you might need to get to when you print, but it's certainly helpful as you see this preview before printing.